All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and tonight, that's right, we're back. Mess Around and I are back tonight for another episode of Coast to Coast Red Tape Files. But tonight is actually going to be, let's say, a very special edition of the Red Tape Files because tonight we're not really talking about any like disappearance cases that have kind of gone on. Tonight we're actually talking about we're talking about serial killers from the past and kind of who we thought was like the craziest serial killers from the past. We're going to try and give our top 5 lists. So mess around before we jump into this. How difficult of this was this for you to do?
It was pretty difficult because most of the ones I looked up were like from the medieval times and before that. So I had to modify my search and I went to modern day serial killers and I found a better list that had people that like you might have heard of. Because most of them were from like way before. So, and the reason we thought about doing this because I'm pretty sure everybody's watched the new Dahmer documentary on Netflix. So we decided, what the heck? Let's put together a list of our top 5 serial killers.
Yeah, and why not, right? Why not? So, if anybody else has any other ideas that they want us to do as far as the Red Tape Files, go ahead and throw it out there. As long as we think it's a great idea and it kind of goes with what we're doing, we have no problem with doing it. So with that being said, mess around. We'll go ahead and we'll break your list down very carefully here. So we'll go ahead and start out with number 5 for you. Who was number 5 on your list?
Number 5 for me. Let me see. I got it somewhere. I gotta look it up. Number 5 for me is Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy, good one.
Ted Bundy is my number 5. It says here he loved the attention his murders garnered him. Many states were more than happy to give him that attention. The Western U.S. was his hunting ground. With the number of murders piling up, mostly college-age women from Washington and Oregon all the way to Utah and Colorado. Bundy was once arrested in Colorado, convicted of kidnapping, but he escaped custody and moved to Florida, where he killed multiple times more. His final arrest is aftermath captured the attention of the nation. The accused murderer acted as his own lawyer during what is believed to have been the first televised murder trial. He also got married to, I can't remember her name, but some girl during his trial.
Yeah, so this is kind of one of those interesting ones that when you really think about it. So he targeted college students, and it makes me wonder exactly what it was that he wanted to target college students. Because if I remember right, and I could be wrong on this, but if I remember right, they asked him the reason for it, and he never really came out and said the actual reason why he targeted college students.
No, he never did come out and say it, but his wife even tried to get him to, because he was in a relationship at this time, and his wife didn't suspect any of this. And she had a kid at the time, and he was like a great father to the kid or whatever. And she never suspected anything. He just came off as a normal guy, quiet, charming, all that stuff. And lo and behold, he was a serial killer.
Well, honestly, when you think about it, though, like, are you gonna really go into a relationship expecting that somebody's a serial killer?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Exactly. So I don't really fault her for like being like, oh my gosh, this guy's a serial killer, because nobody's gonna expect their significant other to
Well, even the wife that he married in court, that he finagled his way into doing that because he found a way to do it. She was defending him and said that he never did any of the murders. He was innocent, blah, blah, blah. Even with all the evidence against him.
No, I definitely get what you're saying there. But it's just to me in general, if this is where it gets me though too. So yeah, so the lady may not have known he was a serial killer, but when she find out, like, why would you stay with somebody that's a serial killer?
Well, no, he divorced that lady. They weren't married. He was just boyfriend, girlfriend, that lady, but he ended up getting married to some other lady in court. And that lady was like, he didn't do it, was believing everything. Like, she didn't believe any of the evidence or nothing.
Yeah, but when the writing is on the wall.
Right.
But some people, they have that way that they can talk. They have that perfect way that they can come out and be like, oh, yeah, I didn't do it. And people believe them. And that's like the sad state that it kind of is today. People are sweet talkers.
Yeah.
And Ted Bundy was definitely one of those guys.
Who was your number 5?
So my number 5 was actually Jack the Ripper. So I don't know if you have Jack the Ripper on.
I do.
Okay, so you had him. Okay, so he was actually my number 5, and I didn't realize he was on your list, but he made it.
It's fine.
So we call him Jack the Ripper, but we don't really know who the person behind one of the older and most notorious murder sprees was. So that is like the whole interesting part about it, was they didn't even really know who this guy actually is. So they just called him Jack the Ripper. And that to me was like the biggest shock. Okay, another thing that shocked me about it was that the police was actually thinking that the guy was a surgeon.
Yeah, because all of his women, he murdered like 5 women. They're all prostitutes. And they thought he was a surgeon, a butcher, or someone skilled with a scalpel.
Yeah, and so, but my thing is so the interesting thing about this individual would send letters, would send letters out to the community to kind of get their attention, or not really, maybe not their whole.
He was mocking them,
almost mocking, pretty much, just to kind of send around letters and be like, this is what's going to happen. This is how I'm going to do it. This is when I'm going to do it. Basically just mocking him. And nobody could stop it because nobody knew who the hell he was.
Yeah, they had no inkling as to who the guy was. They never did catch him. So that's why he made my list as well.
Yeah. And so although many suspects have been named over the years, they're still as to clueless of who this guy actually is.
Whoever it was is probably long dead by now because that was so long ago.
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago.
Long time ago, yeah.
I don't exactly remember. I believe it was.
1888. So yeah, obviously whoever did it's dead.
Yeah. All right. So all right, mess around. Who was your number 4?
Number 4 for me is let me see. I got him here. So Pedro Lopez. He was one of the world's most prolific serial killers. Might still be out there. He was linked to more than 300 murders in his native Colombia, to Ecuador, and Peru. Yeah, 1/3 of the murders were tribal women. He's arrested in 1980. Police found the graves of more than 50 of his preteen victims. Later convicted of murder, 110 girls in Ecuador, and confessed to 240 more murders in Colombia and Peru. The monster of the Andes didn't even spend 20 years in prison. He was released in 98 for good behavior. You believe that? Good behavior was released for.
Good behavior.
More than 20 years since, his whereabouts remain unknown.
After killing all those people, and you only get 20 years, and you get out because of good behavior after potentially killing upwards of 200. Like that is.
He was linked to 300.
Yeah,
He only
that's
confessed
what I'm saying.
to 240.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
and he only got 20 years because of good behavior. Like, what? Really?
good behavior. He gets out. That to me is freaking crazy, though. It's
because he was released in 1998, and they don't know where he's at to this day.
Yeah,
or if he's even alive.
Yeah, so I'm saying, imagine killing 240 people and basically getting away with it for so long. Like once you hit like the 100-person mark, in your mind, you're sitting there going, well, this is kind of easy because I've already gotten to 100 people and nothing has happened. So then you just keep going.
I just did the math. He got 12 years per person.
In that?
I did 240 divided by 20. He did like 12 years for all of it total. Like, that's insane.
And that is freaking crazy. You're getting 12 years because a lot of times you get a hell of a lot longer than that. Like if you think about it, some people get the death penalty just off killing one.
Right.
This guy killed upwards of like 240 people.
That's like 12 murders a year or something like that. I don't know. It's crazy. But he was arrested in 1980. Man, that's just so insane. He killed more than 300 people. Only convicted for 240 of them. Does 20 years, gets out for good behavior. What?
But how do you think somebody would get away with that for so long?
I'm just mind blown that he only did 20 years and got out for good behavior.
Right, 20 years.
240 people. Jesus.
How do you not get the death penalty?
How do you not get consecutive lives? Today, he would have got 240 life consecutive sentences.
Well, yeah, because you have to think about the mass shootings that take place now. You know, the mass shootings that take place now, a lot of them get like consecutive terms.
Yeah.
They get consecutive life terms because of mass shootings. And those numbers don't amount to anywhere near the numbers that we were just talking.
But this guy gets out with good behavior.
Yeah, but that's why we're saying now you won't, if you like do that now, you won't get out for good behavior now.
No, what's your number 4?
So my number 4 is actually Harold Shipman. So Harold Shipman was known as Dr. Death. And he is number 4 on my list. He is believed to have killed at least 218 patients. So, and although the total is quite likely closer to 250, this doctor practiced in London, and between 1972 and 1998, he worked in 2 different offices, killing all the while. He wasn't caught until a red flag was raised by several people, including an undertaker who was surprised by the sheer number of creation certificates Shipman was a part of. So it took that long for the cremation certificates. And Shipman was a part of, along with the fact that most of the cases were elderly women found to have died in bed, not at night, but rather during the day. Police mishandled the investigation, and Shipman kept killing until he got greedy.
He got greedy.
That's exactly what they tried to say. He got greedy. How the heck can you like put in there and talk about a serial killer and talk about how the guy got greedy? That's how he got caught, because he got greedy.
You'd think after 10, after killing more than 2 or 3, it'd be greedy.
right? So, and tried to concoct a will for a victim that named him the beneficiary, which led the victim's daughter to become suspicious. He was finally convicted in 2000 and committed suicide in prison in 2004.
See, I don't understand how anybody lets an inmate that's on life, death row commit suicide. How, don't give the guy an opportunity. Don't give him things he can, hang himself with.
He took the cheap way out.
He did. That's what I'm saying. If you're in there for something like that, you deserve to spend every last freaking day until you die of natural causes. Or an inmate freaking change you like Dahmer. Somebody did the Dahmer.
Yeah, which we all know he's on our list. All right.
Yes.
So mess around. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is John Wayne Gacy. A construction worker known by his suburban neighbors as outgoing, John Wayne Gacy was involved in politics, even acted as a clown for birthday parties. It says here he was no clown. Gacy came under suspicion in 1978 when a 15-year-old boy, last seen with him, went missing. That wasn't the only time families of missing boys had pointed fingers at Gacy, but it was the first time authorities took them seriously. Soon after, a search warrant was executed. Gained police access to the Gacy home with the smell of nearly 30 bodies buried in a 4-foot crawl space under his home. He was convicted of 33 counts of murder with additional counts of rape and torture, executed by lethal injection in 1994.
Yeah, dude, I was going to say, John Wayne Gacy was an absolute freak. The dude was a freak. You dress up like a clown to go to kids' parties, and that's how you find the people you want to kill, is by dressing up like a frickin' clown. That, to me, is crazy. But I guess for him, that was kind of the easiest way to kind of get close and figure out who to target as victims. Now, typically, people get caught because they do the dumbest mistake. And John Wayne Gacy made that mistake. If you're going to kill somebody who's 15 years old, you don't want people to know that you were the last one seen with that individual.
Right.
And that's where a lot of them mess up. To me, I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm like, do you not know? Do you not even think that people know that you were the last one seen with them?
Yeah, that just puts up red flags everywhere. They're not going to look at you when you say you're the last one with the person. So.
Yeah, and so if I remember right, so he was actually executed. That was
he was by lethal injection in 94.
Yep, that was him. Oh yeah, and then of course we have Randy Kraft is the next one on my list at number 3. His suspected kills was 67 people. His confirmed victims was 16 people. The years active was 1971 to 1983. His locations were in California, Oregon, and the Michigan. And his current status is he's actually imprisoned and on death row. And they gave him the nicknames of the Scoreboard Killer, the Freeway Killer, and the Southern California Strangler. That was Randy Kraft is a serial killer who kidnapped, raped, and murdered more than 60 boys and young men before dumping them by California highways. The intelligent Kraft worked and studied in Orange County after being discharged from the U.S. Air Force for informing superiors he was gay. He was first suspected of sexually assaulting a young teen in 1970 before murdering the first time in 1971. According to this, Kraft picked up most of his victims on the side of the road.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how he would find him. He used booze and tranquilizers to incapacitate his victims. He would torture, assault, and then strangle them.
Wow. Crazy.
So that was my number 3. So what was your number 2?
Well, number 2 and number 1 were like, I did have Jack the Ripper, but I'm not going to change it since you used it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 and number 1 were like would toss up for me, but for number 2, I'm going to go with Dahmer. Because number 1's my favorite serial killer. That's if he could have a favorite. It's number 1 would be mine. I'll get to that shortly. But Dahmer started killing people at 78 at just 18. Wasn't arrested for murder until 91. After a would-be victim escaped and led police back to Dahmer's Milwaukee, Wisconsin home. It was there that some of the gruesome details of his life killing spree were seen via photos of mutilated bodies and body parts strewn across the apartment. He even had a vat of acid he used to dispose of victims. In all, Dahmer killed 17 people, mostly young men of color. Served time in prison twice, the first time for molestation and the second time for murder, and was killed by a fellow inmate in 94. And if you, I know you watch it, but to the viewers out there, if you all watch the documentary of Dahmer, that dude was just flat out strange and weird, and like the things he did, and like he'd be like, I just want to take your picture, I'll pay you, and then they try to leave and he kills them. Oh, it's a kitty.
Right. All right. Yeah. So that was, look, to me, I've seen a lot of stuff on Jeffrey Dahmer, but when you watch this 10 series episode, this to me actually painted the big picture of Jeffrey Dahmer.
It did.
And it really showed like how crazy this guy was. Absolutely freaking nuts. And
it really didn't take off until after he killed the guy at the motel. And then he really went on a spree, killing 11 people in the month of June alone of 91, I believe it was.
Well, yeah, I mean, after he killed the first 2 and then kind of got away with it, he thought, oh, this isn't so hard. So,
right.
then he thought, okay, I can do that. So
they had so many chances to catch this guy. Like after the first guy he kills, he takes a trip in his car. He's drunk. They pull him over for drunk driving. Ask him what he's doing. He's like, well, my parents split up. They left me home alone. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to take a drive. And the cop's like, what's that in the bags? In the bag. He's like, oh, it's just garbage. I'm just taking it to the dump. They didn't even look inside the bags. If they looked inside the bags, he would have been stopped right then and there.
Yeah, but a lot of times you have to have a reason to kind of look in the bag. So they probably
did. He was drunk. Shouldn't that be reason enough? Jesus.
Maybe.
They said as you're 18, I don't want to ruin your life with giving you a Dewey, so just turn your car around and go home.
Maybe, right? All right, so my number 2 on this list, and Dave, you'll probably laugh about this because this is based off of my favorite NFL team, and it's Randall Woodfield, and he was known as the I-5 killer. So he was actually drafted by Green Bay. He was a hopeful to play. Yes. He was a hopeful to play in the NFL. He wanted to play there, and then he just went crazy, and he started killing people along California and Oregon. So they called him the
five killer.
The confirmed victim was only 1, but he had suspected of 44 kills in a 1 year span. 1 year.
Jeez.
That was from 1980 to 1981 was his suspected 41 kills. So that was the only our 44. So that's why I picked that, is because that was just in a span of 1 year.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah. So that could have been, so imagine if it would have been like more years. It could have been even worse.
It could have been, yeah.
And so, like, how many people do you hear that are like NFL hopefuls and then go into being like a notorious serial killer, and you get a nickname of the I-5 killer?
Well, Aaron Hernandez, but he only killed like 2 people.
Yeah,
Only convicted of 1.
Yeah, and he wasn't considered
He wasn't considered a serial killer. Yeah.
So that to me though is like the reason why I picked this one. All right.
I like it.
Right, I figured you would. All right, Dave, your number one serial.
So my number 1 was going to be Jack the Ripper, only because he hadn't been caught. But since you used him, I found somebody that I totally forgot of, and I don't know why, because he's like my favorite serial killer of all time. And I read a bunch on this guy in school and did reports on him. It's Charles Manson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Helter Skelter killer.
The Helter Skelter killer.
That's right. He was an American criminal and musician who led the Manson family, a cult based in California in the late 60s. Some of the members committed the series of 9 murders at 4 locations in July and August at the direction of Manson. In 1971, Manson was convicted of first-degree murder, conspiracy, attempted murder for the deaths of 7 people, including the film actress Sharon Tate. The interesting fact about him is he was a singer-songwriter, and he wrote a song that the Beach Boys actually used. Manson had the song called Cease to Exist. The Beach Boys changed it to Never Learn to Love. But they didn't give him a credit. Obviously, I can see why. He would talk about the Beatles often. He was one of my favorite serial killers. The guy just looks insane, crazy. He was born Charles Miles Maddox, November 12th, 1934 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Died November 19th, 2017 at the age of 83 in Bakersfield, California.
So my number 1 of all time, and I'll throw it out there since we're kind of running low on time here. This guy's name is Richard Chase. And I don't know if you like read anything about this Richard Chase guy, but you want to talk about an absolute freak. They ended up calling him the Vampire of Sacramento. And the reason why they called him the Vampire of Sacramento is because he would actually go knock on people's doors. And then when they would answer the doors, he'd shoot them.
Oh, my God.
And then once he shot them and killed them, he would then just drink their blood.
That's gory.
Yeah, so I guess he kind of reminds you of like Jeffrey Dahmer in a way. Because
Dahmer drank the blood too.
Not only drank the blood, but Jeffrey Dahmer also ate the people.
He ate them too, yeah.
Like ate the hearts and whatever else was there. But it's
what?
Right, yeah. And so to me, I'm like, dude, that was that's crazy. Like,
doesn't that just make your stomach turn just thinking about the thought of eating somebody?
It does. Well, imagine this guy though, the Vampire of Sacramento. So think about how this guy could have potentially like done this for like the first time. He's like, oh, I'm gonna go knock on somebody's door and shoot them, and then I'm gonna drink their blood because I'm just curious.
Right? Who the fuck does that?
Yeah, that's crazy. So Richard Chase was the guy's name. He came in on my number 1 list. I've kept Jeffrey Dahmer off my list. He could have been on my list, but you put him on yours. So yeah. I went opposite. So I definitely went the opposite direction.
Gotcha.
But this was definitely, I enjoyed doing this. This was definitely a fun list. It was fun to break
Right,
it.
like I said, it's weird having a favorite, but I do. It's Manson.
It's weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird when somebody comes out and says, "Oh, that's my favorite serial killer." It's like, all right, that's kind of different. That's kind of strange.
Right? I'm not going to go out and kill anybody. Don't get me wrong. I just have a favorite.
Right. All right. So with that, we are at that 30-minute mark. So mess around. Your final thoughts on it, our special edition that we did tonight.
This was great. Like I said, if you guys have any ideas that you want to see us do, just pitch it to us, and we'll. If we like it, we'll do it. You want to come on and be a guest and talk about some of these cold case missing files? Again, reach out to us through Coast to Coast. Email us there. Next week, we'll hopefully have Joanne back with us. She's got a college kid home helping him out. So, yeah, look forward to next week.
All right. So we definitely want to thank everybody for watching. We usually keep this show at 30 minutes. So there will probably be 3 of us next week, hopefully. I know it's been a while, but we are back now. We could potentially be moving to Thursday. We will let everybody know on that. So with that, I really hope everybody has a fantastic night, and we will see you later for another episode of the Red Tape Files.
Oh, you guys will see me in like 10 minutes for 4 Bros, so watch out for that too.
All right. So have a good night, everybody.
Later.